so high, I'm hypnotized. What's up?
All right, we are good to go.
All right. Good evening, everybody. Welcome back from a long hiatus. So
How many
obviously we had
weeks was it? It
God, I
was.
feel like
It's been a while since
it's
our
been a
last
while.
community meeting. It's
So I
over.
think it's been about 4 weeks, yeah. So because we did one right after Thanksgiving and then we haven't been back since. So hopefully everybody had a wonderful holidays, safe holidays. Hopefully Santa was kind to everybody. No lumps of coals out there. So but we'll get started here on some of the news. Obviously, the elephant in the room is the FCC. So let me get this shared here, and we'll kind of go from there. All right. So first up, FCC updates the covered list to include foreign UAS and UAS critical components on a going forward basis. So if you thought it couldn't get any worse with just DJI and Autel being banned, um, it unfortunately does. So I'm going to skip the top two paragraphs because they mean next to nothing. But this came through on December 22nd, I believe, yesterday, following a thorough review by an executive branch interagency body with appropriate national security expertise that was convened by the White House. The FCC received a specific determination that UAS and UAS critical components that are produced in foreign countries pose unacceptable risks to the national security of the United States and the safety and security of U.S. persons. So, not only are we stopping drone components coming from places like China and Iran and any other place that was previously on the UAS covered list, we are now banning those parts from any foreign country. So if you thought it was hard to get drone parts, it's going to be a hell of a lot harder. So let's see, and should be included on the FCC's covered list unless the Department of War or the Department of Homeland Security makes a specific determination to the FCC that a given UAS, class of UAS, or UAS critical component does not pose such risks. The determination includes the equipment and services listed in Section 1709 of the fiscal year 25 National Defense Authorization Act. So that means that any part or full system that somebody wants to sell, they need to get it authorized from DOW or DHS. And I don't believe at this point, several weeks later, that we have a set path for people to move, or for companies to move forward through that. So says, therefore, consistent with this national security determination, the FCC updated the cover list to include UAS and UAS critical components produced abroad. As specified below, today's decision does not impact a consumer's ability to continue using drones they previously purchased or acquired, nor does today's decision prevent retailers from continuing to sell, import, or market device models approved earlier this year or previously through the FCC's equipment authorization process. By operation of the FCC's covered list rules, the restrictions imposed today by today's decision apply to new device models. So Chairman Carr says, I welcome this executive branch national security determination. I'm pleased that the FCC has now added foreign drones and related components which pose an unacceptable national security risk to the FCC's covered list. Following President Trump's leadership, the FCC will work closely with U.S. drone makers to unleash American drone dominance. Best of luck with that. The FCC's covered list is a list of communications, equipment, and services that are deemed to pose an unacceptable risk to the national security of the United States or the safety and security of U.S. persons. I'm not going to go through all this. We've kind of been through a lot of the covered list and cybersecurity and infrastructure. So it says new devices on the covered list, such as foreign-made drones, are prohibited from receiving FCC authorization, are therefore prohibited from being imported for use or sale in the United States. This update to the covered list does not prohibit import, sale, or use of any existing device models the FCC previously authorized.
Unless they change their mind.
Yeah, and it does not affect any previously purchased drone. So if you currently have a DJI, you can continue to fly it, but God forbid, don't crash it because you may not get parts for it. So I'm going to step over to this is coming from Commercial UAV. And I'm going to kind of step through this, and this kind of talks about where we are as of now. It says we are a couple weeks removed from the announcement, and the biggest takeaway is that there's still a lot that the industry is trying to figure out. In some ways, the blanket covering of foreign-made UAS and components is a big surprise, as most were focused on Chinese companies like DJI and Autel. However, during the debates around how to apply this kind of rule that have been going on for some time now, one of the key points repeatedly brought up is that limiting these rules to single manufacturers or even nations could result in a never-ending chase of shell companies and other potential loopholes. Instead, the announcement noted that the U.S. Department of Defense and the Department of Homeland Security have authority to make a specific determination to the FCC that a given UAS or component does not pose a risk and therefore can be sold within the United States. In other words, there will be a review process led by the executive branch for everything, but not necessarily a ban on all foreign-made UAS, which was the implication some saw when the announcement was first made. By what criteria these decisions will be made and the process for making them still remains to be seen, though the industry will be watching closely to see how this evolves moving forward. There are also questions about whether or not the FCC has the legal authority to regulate everything mentioned within these new additions to its covered list. The FCC, by law, is charged with regulating interstate and international communications by radio, television, wire, satellite, and cable. Many components within a UAS, and by extension the UAS itself, fall within this jurisdiction as they transmit radio frequencies. However, the FCC's announcement also mentions components such as batteries and motors under examples of critical UAS components, which would not fit into this jurisdiction. How exactly that'll work with this ruling and what jurisdiction will be enforced is going to be critical to watch, but as of now is unclear. So I feel like, let's just take batteries for an example. I feel like, most batteries made nowadays are coming from overseas, from China or from other places where, lithium is prevalent. And I think we're pretty much shooting ourselves in the foot when it comes to all this stuff. And, we want to unleash drone dominance, but, we're leaving out things that, completely we're at the mercy of other countries to obtain. We don't have the infrastructure for this stuff. Now, there are some people who are building that, but this is a little bit of a disaster. What do you guys think?
Man, I think if you look at it, I agree. The FCC doesn't have jurisdiction over a lot of the dumb components like the batteries and the motors.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about it, they have jurisdiction over that aircraft if they're going to approve it. So if somebody applies for an FCC certification and it contains batteries or motors from from a foreign country, and B, that the Department of War or DHS has not specifically said, hey, this is okay, then they're just going to deny the certification, but that doesn't necessarily mean that the components are illegal here. So I think we're still going to continue to be able to buy the batteries and the motors. Just aircraft with those components that are shipped or are seeking approval are not going to be authorized. But the funny thing, though, is some of the unreleased aircraft, like the DJI Avata 360, the DJI Goggles 4, they've already got their FCC authorizations. So even though they're not for sale and not released, they still theoretically can be released here if DJI A chooses to, and B, the customs lets them in. So it's kind of confusing. It seems like it's going to ban the drones and the flying machines and the electronic parts, but I don't think the dumb parts in and of themselves are going to be banned.
Right.
I'd have to disagree with you, Rob. I think the 2025 NDAA Section 1709 covers completed drones and specifically anything out of China. So if we perceive that the federal government's primary objective is to eliminate DJI and Autel, they achieved that with the NDAA for completed drones. But then where
Correct.
they missed is components, and that's where the FCC DA 25-1086 document starts and ends. It's all about components, and unfortunately, I do believe that they are trying to sweep in to into their document non-RF emitting, dumb components, as you correctly characterize them.
It sure
Um,
seems like they're trying
Motors.
to. Otherwise, why would they
Yeah,
be there on the list?
yeah, it's on their list. So I think if we look at 1709 as completed drones, and then the FCC document as components, that does appear to be how they've picked it up. I saw this morning um, the Commercial Drone Alliance (CDA), and this is a well-funded and well-staffed, and we have the highest regard for the people who work at CDA. Um, we we rarely agree with them. They don't have much regard for recreational operators, and they frequently work with AUVSI. So we frequently disagree with a lot of what they say. They the and in the write up that Josh has just brought up is that the CDA has highlighted that one, they were surprised by what the FCC put out, and two, having a blanket ban on components built by our allies, they articulate as challenging at best. The other aspect is the one that UAS article that Josh was showing about, how could we, would it be chasing our tails around different companies and shell companies? My response to that is, baloney. We as a country certainly have the ability to track, manage, and look at phones, look at chips, look at high function chips, application specific integrated circuits, look at servers, laptops, go on and on and on to devices that really could pose a national security threat. We've got procedures and organizations inside DOJ and working closely with Department of Commerce. We have a way to clear, the appropriate. So, yeah, this our level of surprise was, we were as aghast as anyone. If we're fortunate, we will have a call over the next week or so with the FCC. It was supposed to be today, got postponed. We're asking the FCC, what's the overall intent? We hope that the overall intent was, well, they were trying to sweep up DJI and Autel components with this because the federal government has already banned full completed DJI and Autel through 1709. If that's the case, we really would like all FPV DIY components and completed drones to be a carve-out exception for this. And we have gone through piece by piece the view that this is overstep, that it is potentially illegal, that there was no public comment period. The notion that they explicitly they just said, well, we got together with an unnamed group of agencies and decided that we didn't have to go to the public. That's, as one of my favorite commercials would say, that's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. And so there are multiple challenges with this. One of the things that we learned from the lawsuit that Tyler Brennan brought was we have to wait until we see things go into effect before we would even contemplate any litigation, or anyone should contemplate litigation. So we most certainly, if we cannot quickly gain some common sense out of this, gain some carve out, then certainly we will be looking at what's the right step. Things like get to congressional representatives and senators to press, because they're the people who provide the FCC with a mandate, And as we've said, we do feel that the FCC has overstepped in this instance, in as much as their remit is limited to devices that emit radio frequencies.
Hey, Dave, so I'm trying to clarify. So your interpretation then is that even the dumb components, aside from drones, not part of any drone builds, like just say a LiPo battery that could be used in a boat, a car, or a drone. Your interpretation is it's also targeting those?
Yes, sir. Yes, 100%.
Gotcha. I'm gonna have to reread it with that perspective.
Yeah, yeah, and I welcome, and this is this team on the phone knows that I welcome debate on this stuff, and so if Rob figures out, hey, I was wrong, he'll let me know, and that's the way it works. That we get the best result that way. And if there's anyone listening to me that feels, nope, you got it wrong, Messina, boy, I really would like to know, because what we want is the best interpretation of this document as we go back to the FCC and ask for a full FPV carve-out of full completed as well as components, and all sizes from little to large, small UAS is what I'll say, so under 55 pounds.
Well, and here's the thing is I think the thing that bothers me, I mean, there's multiple things here that bothers me, but I think one of the things that is almost sacrilegious at a certain point is that this is not just from covered countries. This is from any foreign country, whether they're an ally or not. So countries that we do business with, like, they can't even spool up production and be like, okay, China's out. Like, let's spool up production. Let's make some money. Let's ship some components to the United States without going through that approval process. Like,
right,
there's nothing that can be imported into the country.
And if you think about the various companies that have taken action since the initial tariffs were announced in April, companies have been spending serious money to relocate manufacturing, either offshoring from China or onshoring onto the U.S. Now this says, well, not so sure, not sure that that's going to cut it, the vagueness of this declaration, as well as the lack of veracity, as well as the authority in the document, is very troubling.
So I'm really curious to hear stories from people who actually try to buy stuff, or retailers that try to import things, and hear, are they being blocked? Is it everything? Is it just some things? Is it random? Does it depend on the day of the week? How is it going to play out?
Yeah,
Right.
it's going to be.
And we should mention that part of our role is we've got good rapport with all of the major FPV manufacturers and retailers in the U.S. And what we can do is provide them with background and insight, and guidance on things like this. So we are in touch with the retailers, and you guys have a good thought in terms of we can reach out to them and say, okay, what's your findings so far? And I'd bet more than a couple of adult beverages that what they'll tell us is, well, no change yet. And I looked carefully for an effective date in the DA 25-1086. It appeared to be effective immediately, but I could not find any dates or how they're going to do this. Now, what is a real challenge is, so how do you do an FCC certification on a battery? Not a lot of RF coming out of that thing. So that's what their certifications are all about. That's what their testings are about. And so this is not limited to FCC Part 15. This is FCC certification to be sold in the United States. And that has everything to be about safety, as well as emissions. It's going to emit this much RF, and it's going to be in these bands, and it won't interfere with other devices. That's one of the things they test for.
Well, at least testing the battery should go quickly. They set it on their testing rig. Is it emitting RF? No? Okay, good.
Yeah.
It passed.
Looks pretty good. Pretty clean.
I just had
Yeah.
this thought of them doing a teardown on a LiPo battery, and whoops.
Where are the where are the chips?
Or it just catching
Where's the
fire, you know.
transmitter on this? Yeah.
Yeah, this is some of the goofiest crap I could not have foresaw them doing this. Like DJI is bad enough. Autel, I mean, I don't have a ton of experience with Autel. I know some people use them, but at the end of the day, like just banning everything is just it's just fear mongering at this point, and it's
Yeah.
goofy. But
And yeah, absolutely. And when we look at 1709 within the NDAA, it's as goofy. What a shock! No security agency stepped up to do an audit to determine whether there was a
an
security
actual threat.
issue, right? A real threat. And so that of course was spearheaded by Congressional Representative Stefanik. She's not. She had briefly put her hat in the race for New York State governor. She's withdrawn from that, and she is not going to go up for reelection in her New York congressional district. So we have Senator Scott from Florida, who is also an advocate of this type of insanity. And so we have a couple of congressional representatives and senators who, hopefully we can educate that this is where recreational UAS is where the resource of pilots and technicians is coming from, as well as we are continue to be a source of great innovation around the world. I don't know if anyone's following the record, the fastest drone on the planet by one father-son team in the Nordics versus a brilliant aeronautical engineer down under. I don't know if I'm embarrassed to say I don't know if it's New Zealand or Australia, but great competition, very professional, great innovation, 630, if I'm not mistaken, kilometers per hour, very fast, very fast.
Back on the FCC thing, one way to another way to think about it, like as XJet has pointed out in the comments, you could consider that, well, batteries and motors haven't been certified by the FCC in the past, and now that they have to, now all of the imports of those things can effectively be banned.
Yes.
So because you can't retroactively take those in because they never were passed. So
right. Ian at MadsTech brought that out as well. I agree with that completely. That is a significant fear on my part, because if they say, well, if it was sold, you're okay, you can continue to buy it, but well, if it was never certified, because why would we?
right.
Now you're in this catch-22. Agree completely, Bruce.
Well, and the thing that I want to go back to real quick is, and I'm sure the FCC will have a part in here, but the thing that strikes me is that the Department of War or the Department of Homeland Security needs to make a specific determination to the FCC that a given UAS, class of UAS, or UAS critical component does not pose such risk. So is it going to be the FCC determining that, or is it going to be the Department of War and the Department of Homeland Security? And who's going to be doing that? Because here's the deal, is they set up a path for a DJI audit to be done and then just refuse to do it.
Right.
And now they're setting up a path for parts to have a specific determination that they don't pose a risk. Are they just going to refuse to do it?
Yeah. In the not so distant past, the way this worked was a little more sensible. You worked with Department of Justice on okay, I'd like to ship my product from the U.S. To a foreign country, or I'd like to import components or products from a country into the U.S. And DOJ would make a determination if there was a national security risk. Obviously, they were working with other three-letter abbreviation federal organizations, but you were able to work with someone in DOJ who was completely nonpartisan. And so, as I say, this was in the not so distant past.
Yeah, I'm guessing how this may work is that the people with enough money or connections will get their components allowed and the rest of them will not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Money. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Rob.
on second pass, yeah, I retract everything I said, Dave. Well, not everything, but that particular portion. There is no distinction between final product and individual components. I did not catch that on my first read.
Yep. Yep. Well,
Yep. It's good times.
well, in as
So how
much
they're
as
going to regulate it?
well,
Go
in
ahead.
as much as I don't have a full-time job in addition to the fun I'm having, Rob, you've been a little busy, so I think you get a bye.
I appreciate that, but I'm still kind of scratching my head with y'all. How in the world are they going to regulate something that does not require FCC certifications? But back to the viewer comment, there never was. So if there never was, they're not grandfathered in. So this is going to be interesting. I'm hoping what we see is a correction at some point, though, because I don't see how this is sustainable, even for the U.S. manufacturers, because even a lot of the U.S. manufacturers rely on components from Israel and a lot of other allied nations.
Yeah, and so how are they going to make, if we all sat here and said, okay, this is the best idea in the world, how do we make this work? They would have to ring up the Department of Commerce and start working with them on import restrictions. So the fact that the FCC has taken this on and just pointed to a covered list, it's like, yeah, no, sorry, that's not the way this works. So I'm with you, Rob. The enforcement, just the logistics. This is this feels very much like a draw, fire, aim routine, and it's a tremendously unhealthy process to come out with something that's half baked, frighten an industry, and then try to figure out what makes sense. And oh, by the way, tariffs are still not at a sensible level. We have the highest tariffs in our country right now, dating back to 1929 and 1870. Oh, by the way, those are the last two huge financial depressions in the United States. So the average is 2.5%. That's where we want to be on tariffs from an average.
I'm also thinking about the amount of bandwidth and resources that would be required to try to regulate every single battery and electric motor that comes in on literally everything.
Right. And what makes a battery or motor a UAV component versus they use the exact same motors in bicycle pumps. They use the same batteries in thousands of things.
Right.
Well, let's just look at the RC industry, like RC cars, RC boats.
Yeah,
like
you can use a DJI FPV equipment on an RC car. Is that a drone or UAV? Is that banned?
Right. Yeah, it's goofy all around, and it's to go back to Dave's point. It's again an example of where our government is putting the cart before the horse. They are banning all this stuff when we don't have the infrastructure to create it ourselves.
Right.
There's some niche areas where maybe somebody's figured out how to do this on a small scale, but we cannot match the demand for these products, especially when we're trying to unleash drone dominance in the United States and arm our forces with the next gen of weapons, which unfortunately, from my point of view, tends to be drones. It just is what it is. So,
right. Yeah, and to get that down to brass tacks, if you look at motors, flight controllers, speed controllers, frame, props, and receivers, yeah, we can scale that up and be relatively competitive in a couple of years. Mm-hmm. Where we will struggle are batteries and video subsystems.
And and magnets for the motors.
Yeah. Well, yeah, components, magnets, sourcing magnets, without a doubt.
Yeah. So,
well, it's just going to force an alternative market, though. It's going to be like the solvent traps. There's going to be other names for drone components.
Solvent traps. I love it.
Uh,
Oh my
that's
goodness.
hilarious, and I
That's
love that
such a
reference. That was
such a great
perfect.
analogy.
Oh, that
I
was epic. Love
Yeah,
it.
I can just see, next week, someone's going to come out with a drone, and they're going to call it the solvent trap. That's excellent. That's a good one, Rob.
No.
Yeah,
All
and
right, guys. Oh,
yeah,
go ahead, Dave.
as we've been saying for in our entire existence, when uh, unreasonable regulations are put in place, we can expect that the response will be widespread non-compliance. Now, this is tough because we'd have to get things. So this just is asking for gray market, black market, and it's not a smart way to run. So we'd like to be working with the FCC. That's why we're reaching out to them to see if there's a way we can uh, understand and then help amplify a sensible approach. I think that's exactly what Commercial Drone Association was doing in their statement today. Pretty amazing that they went public. I would imagine that they talked to the FCC first, but we'll see how this plays out.
Yeah. All right. So we've got this is coming from the Drone Girl. Sky Elements launches Drone Light Show Alliance to set industry safety standards. So, Sky Elements, one of the world's largest drone light show companies, has launched the Drone Light Show Alliance, the DLSA, a professional organization designed to provide drone show operators with unified safety standards, training resources, and a forum for transparent incident analysis. Sky Elements is a leader in drone shows and have been the team behind major shows like the 5,000 Drone Show in Vegas in late December to promote Stranger Things. Sky Elements has also made it all the way to America's Got Talent finals, earning a third place spot on AGT season 19. But the company has also faced major challenges. The launch of DLSA comes just over a year after the December 2024 Lake Eola Park incident that sent a 7-year-old boy to the hospital for emergency heart surgery in a show put on by Sky Elements. But now in 2026, Sky Elements is spearheading an industry wide effort to establish safety baselines that apply regardless of which drones or software operators use. A cornerstone of the DLSA is going to be promoting safety openly, Preston Ward, chief pilot at Sky Elements, said in a statement announcing the group. The drone show industry seems to be developing a pattern of manufacturers weaponizing safety as a selling point rather than as an industry trying to better itself through safety and accountability from the members. DLSA seeks to change this. Safety is not proprietary, nor should it be treated as such. So the problems the DLSA aims to solve. From Disney's elaborate Disneyland Paris spectaculars to celebrations to ring in the new year and even my wedding drone show, the drone light show industry is quite literally booming. But Ward says the industry lacks the infrastructure to support that growth safely. The drone show industry is still new and rapidly evolving. Ward said in an interview with the Drone Girl. Unfortunately, operators, whether new or experienced, have had limited access to unified guidance, best practices, or peer learning when challenges arise. The DLSA seeks to change that. Ward noted his own experience getting into the drone light show space years ago, acknowledging how new drone light show companies might be feeling now. When we first entered the space, training and resources were fragmented at best. We recognized the industry needed a central place where the operators could improve their capabilities, receive expert guidance, and assess continuing education.
Well, the drone light shows might have been booming before, but good luck getting components now.
Mm-hmm.
I know.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yep. So, one of DLSA's core functions will be analyzing drone show incidents worldwide and facilitating transparent discussions about what went wrong and how to prevent similar failures. Currently, when an incident occurs, the industry lacks a forum for collective discussion and learning. By creating that space for industry wide awareness and shared knowledge, we make the entire industry stronger and more resilient. Ward points to another recent example where a Verge Aero customer experienced a significant operational failure during a show where the pilot should have aborted the launch immediately but didn't. Without a dedicated forum, the operator and others never have the opportunity to understand what contributed to that decision, whether it was due to training gaps, inadequate safety procedures, equipment limitations, or inadequate pilot preparation. He said that's the real time learning opportunity we're creating. The DLSA isn't the only organization working on drone show standards. The ASTM International has an active committee developing manufacturer-focused standards for drone show systems. Perhaps not coincidentally, Ward serves on that committee. I see them as complementary, Ward said. The ASTM standards focus primarily on what manufacturers should design and build into their system. The DLSA standards are intended to fill in the operational and practical details that manufacturer standards don't address, specifically how end user operators should conduct drone shows safely and responsibly. And for what it's worth, the DLSA is evolving into much more than a standards organization. We're building a comprehensive resource hub that will provide training, operational support, regulatory assistance, safety discussions, and member certifications. I see this as, realistically, a very positive thing. I think there's a lot of cities. I know every new holiday, there's more and more cities issuing fireworks and moving towards drone shows. I think it's just becoming more and more prevalent now. How that holds up in with what's going on now might be an issue, but I think having a area where people who are working in this industry can get standards. These people are operating around crowds. Plain and simple. I know there's standoff distances and whatnot, but ultimately, I think that's a positive thing.
Yeah.
And thousands of drones in the air at a time.
Yeah, absolutely agree. To me, two aspects. The first is exactly what you're saying, Josh, which is this is saying safety is more important than profit. So kudos to the people working on this. They will be sharing information with their competitors, but it will be around safety. So good for them, and that's absolutely the same ethos in aviation. When we get on discussions like we're part of drone safety team with the FAA, and it's clear, and we see examples of competitive airframe manufacturers talking to each other about safety. So one, good thing. Two, this is an opportunity for those of us who are FPV pilots, like this, we are, if you have your 107, you've gotten a little bit of taste of what safety is like. If you look at the BVLOS NPRM, you see more, but we come from a place that is safe, and this is certainly an area where we can get jobs, assuming we resolve the supply of the aircraft.
All right. This is a couple weeks old at this point, but hey, it's been a while since we've met. So Michigan bill would create a statewide drone registry to bypass the FAA. Wonder how that's going to work. So a Michigan bill would prohibit drones from being operated near sensitive facilities and provide law enforcement with easier access to drone registration data. So a bill moving through the Michigan legislature would create a statewide drone registry managed by the state's Department of Transportation, designed to provide state agencies and law enforcement better access to critical information and improve public safety. Known as SHIELD Michigan, short for Securing Homeland and Infrastructure with Emerging Laws for Drones. It's another one where they just pick a word and make the bill fit the word. The bill would also direct more funding for geofencing technology for law enforcement and prohibit drones from flying near certain facilities like power plants, correctional institutions, and law enforcement buildings. That's already a thing with the FAA, just saying. Let's see. It says Michigan already has a law prohibiting drones from invading personal privacy. State Representative William Bruck, a Republican spearheading the legislation, said that drones present a grave threat to critical infrastructure and public gatherings in the absence of comprehensive federal regulation. He says the bottom line is we're 100% open to nefarious drone use in our state and the fact that the feds are not moving, Bruck said in a recent interview. There's such damage that can be done with not just one drone, but a swarm of drones that could cripple our economy and hurt a lot of people at one time. And that's what we're trying to avoid.
They're going to try to stop drone shows? Swarms of drones flying at the same time?
So while the Federal Aviation Administration operates a nationwide mandatory drone registry, Brooks said it's often inaccessible to state and local agencies, which prevents critical information from being shared in a timely manner. The FAA's remote ID rule requires each drone to bear a digital license plate to identify its origin. But Brooke also criticized the FAA for failing to distinguish between drones and manned aircraft, adding the agency will regulate drones, but not where drones cannot go. They do. We have technology to say where that drone is being controlled from, and they can see the ID number, but sometimes it takes a very long time to actually get that information from that ID number from the FAA, Brooks said. MDOT Aeronautics will have that registry internal to Michigan where it'll be accessible. The bill would also prohibit state and local agencies from purchasing or using drones with components made in countries flagged by the federal government as national security risks. A little late to the party there, but although this was before the FCC's announcement. So, we've got.
And I would bet that the next step that they're contemplating is counter UAS. That's what this feels like. So they want to be able to enforce, once so they can identify friend or foe. Once identified as foe, what do you do? And that's what's not written here, but there is legislation at the federal level to enable state and local counter UAS. So that's going forward. So So what's interesting is Michigan is challenging the FAA to take them to court and uphold the federal preemption that the FAA has declared. Now, the FAA has declared this, and we've been around for 7 years, have not seen one case. And when we press them on it, they say, well, we're waiting for a good case that will establish precedent. So I guess we're going to wait a little longer. So I think while I don't agree with much of anything in this legislation that Michigan is putting forward, I think it is clever that they're pressing the FAA to respond.
Yeah, there's several states that are doing that right now. We've got states that want to allow you to shoot down drones, and states that want to do a registry, all kinds of good stuff. All right. Last but not least, obviously this has been on the back burner for a minute, but FAA's BV loss. We don't want to forget about that. So I'm not going to go through the whole article. We've talked BV loss, I feel like, to death. I do want to highlight a couple of things, though. We've got more than 3,000 comments were submitted in response to the NPRM, which was open for public comment through October 6th. It drew responses from stakeholders across the nation's aviation landscape, including various OEMs, operators, and service providers, as well as major industry associations. And I do want to jump down here. Part 108 UAS would not be allowed to use ADS-B out equipment to broadcast their positions under the FAA's proposed rule. That's because the FAA is concerned that too many transmitters could potentially oversaturate available ADS-B frequencies, limiting the system's capabilities and potentially blinding ADS-B ground receivers. As a workaround for ADS-B limitations, the FAA said it plans to define new requirements for a portable, low-cost electronic conspicuity device that could be used by manned aviation operators solely to retain right-of-way over Part 108 UAS. So we've heard the term portable, low-cost electronic conspicuity device a lot. Low cost is I imagine in the eye of the beholder there. I mean, I feel like we've gotten remote ID to relatively inexpensive, but it didn't start that way. Let's see. Under the FAA's proposed rulemaking, UAS operating under the proposed Part 108 rules would have to yield right of way to crewed aircraft that are broadcasting their position using ADS-B out equipment or the aforementioned electronic conspicuity device. Meanwhile, crewed aircraft that aren't broadcasting their positions would be required to yield to UAS, a provision that sparked consternation and debate across the industry. Love that. And then obviously detect and avoid. The last part I kind of wanted to highlight. Over the coming months, the FAA will be analyzing comments and updating its proposed rule. A final draft of the document could be issued before the second quarter. Under executive order signed into law by President Trump on June 6th, the FAA was given 240 days to publish its final rule, suggesting a deadline of February 1. However, agency-wide delays stemming from the record-setting 43-day government shutdown in October and November could push the final ruling into March or April. I will be impressed if it comes by April.
Yeah, that last paragraph is important. We've heard from the FAA that they took the executive order, the June executive orders, very seriously. They were working toward that deadline. They have then also articulated, just as this paragraph does, that the government shutdown caused a delay. So they're in the magnitude of March or April. Now, we remember from the remote ID, it took about a year to get in between NPRM to final rule of remote ID. So this is, and with 3,000, not 53,000 comments, as
Maybe.
well as the BV loss was, had so much fantasy in it, as well as pointing elsewhere. Many of our laments about the BV loss NPRM were that it was once again rulemaking through advisory circulars, the AC 146 notably. So it's, we do suspect that we'll see a final rule on BV loss in approximately this time frame.
Yep. I still will be impressed.
Oh, without a doubt. Yeah. March or April, and would say, yeah, 26. Not,
All right, guys, that's all I've got for today. So, I mean, if you hadn't heard about the FCC's ban, I'm sure most of you had. Sorry to drop that bomb on you. And we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, that's probably the biggest thing. Dave, what do you got for us?
Just a little logistics, and thank you. I've been working with PayPal to resolve an issue that was created by my move from New York to Pennsylvania, and 9 hours with customer support later, and the problem is resolved. And so, sent out a note to everyone in the FPVFC membership, and I got back a bunch of emails that were, "Hey, thanks for you guys. Thanks. Please keep doing what you're doing." Notes to that effect, and really appreciate it. We continue to be an all volunteer 501c3, not for profit, and it's notes like that that really help us when we're trudging through 300 plus page documents for the community. So my thanks to the community, and to our payment system is back up and functional.
Yeah, I want to say thanks to all the people who tried to make a donation over the last month or so at the end of the year and weren't able to do so because our PayPal account wasn't working as it should. We appreciate what you're trying to do, and our fault for, well, and PayPal's for it not working when you were trying to do that at the last minute. But
Yes.
oh well, we'll survive.
We will. All right, Rob, you got anything for us, brother?
I had
You're really quiet, Rob, but we did hear you say no, sir.
I had one more. How can I?
Okay.
How can I forget? We're very proud of Alex Suarez. He has put a video clip that our good friend Greg Revendu put up on Pilot Institute last Friday, where Alex is working on a long endurance drone. So he's hovered a drone for 4 hours. So that's a long time. And so this is non-trivial engineering, and it's impressive. And so if you can see the clip, you can see how huge this thing is. And when Alex is back on, he's headed back to Alaska right now, and I'm sure that we'll have him describe some of the technology as it's as it rolls out and as he's working on the record of that. So congratulations to Alex. That was a great piece of work.
I
That's
can't
awesome.
imagine doing those kind of long tests. Like, all right, it's up in the air. Now we've got 4 hours to wait to see if it
4
makes it or not.
hours.
Be scrolling my Instagram, reading a book, watch a movie. Oh, okay. It's about time for it to come down now. Excuse me while I go have a beer.
Yes.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Great stuff. And once
Right.
again, yeah, innovation coming from recreational.
Hobbyists,
Thank you.
recreation.
Yeah,
Yep,
thank you.
100%. I applaud his attention span for 4 hours of sitting there.
I'm sure he's doing more than just
I'd be
sitting
going
there doing
camping.
nothing for 4 hours.
I'm
sure
sure
he's
he was.
nervous.
He's probably working on his homework.
That's funny. All right, Dan, what you got for us tonight? Anything?
No, nothing new for us this week. But can we
All
hear
right,
Rob
guys.
yet? And Rob?
You there,
Did
buddy?
it resolve?
Oh, that's much better.
Hey, there's that deep
Oh,
voice.
there you go.
Just in time for us to be done.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for joining us again after the holidays. Hopefully, there will be a steady stream going forward. And we'll see you in another 2 weeks. Thank you for sticking with us. Thank you for the donations. Thank you for allowing us to continue to do what we do. It means a lot, and hopefully you guys can see the impact that we have. So with that, I will say good night, and we'll see you again in another 2 weeks. Appreciate y'all.
Fly so high, I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right.